The roads will soon be closed around the legendary Isle of Man TT course, so what better way to increase the anticipation than with a look at the top runners and riders in this year's solo classes. We'll dive into the teams and machinery for this year's leading competitors, catching up on what's happened since 2024 and hearing all about their preparations and aspirations for TT 2025. So let's kick this thing off. There's been a lot going on in silly season with the musical chairs getting out of hand. Before we get into all that business, it'll be easier if we show you who's staying put. All is pretty much the same in the Honda racing camp, with 23-time TT winner John McGuinness MBE taking up the #1 spot on the big bikes. Starting his second year with the official Honda team is frontrunner and 135-man Dean Harrison. Dean starts at #3 for the Super Bike, Super Stock and Super Sport encounters, and is also taking on a full season of the British Supersport Championship. The Honda squad have been out testing throughout winter, and both riders took to the official test and first round of BSB before heading out to the first roads outing at the International Northwest 200, which we'll get onto a little later. In the middle of the Honda sandwich is this year's only Kawasaki effort within the top 20, as we welcome back Australian Dave O'Johnson, returning with Lee Hardy Racing for the second year in a row. A big crash early on during TT24 saw the Aussie ace sit out the rest of the event, so he'll be looking to make up for that lost time at TT 2025. Sean Anderson will again be piloting Suzuki's only Superbike effort within the top 20. The recent 130 Club member will be lining up for his third year with Team Classic Suzuki, while fellow 130 man Rob Hodson starts his third year on the SMT Racing Honda. The first of our team changes isn't really a change for James Hillier. Starting from #5 on the grid, all was looking well for James to stay put with Alan Gardner's WTF Honda squad, but a late sponsor issue with the BSB side of the team put huge doubt on their 2025 roads campaign. The issue was sorted, and OMG Racing have supplied Hillier the big bikes where he'll be riding under the new Muck-Off Racing banner. The casualty in the deal would be TT podium finisher Dom Herbertson, who had originally signed for WTF but later decided to form his own HRRC, Herbertson Road Racing Company. Our next sort of team swap comes from local ace Nathan Harrison, as he moves out of the official Honda racing team and into the official Honda satellite team for TT25. Honda Racing UK are supplying Nathan the 1000cc machines, and it's back to where it all started in the Supersport encounters as the Harrisons keep it in the family and ride under their own H&H Motorcycles banner. 2025 sees another local hopeful making moves as Michael Evans steps up into the Dafabet Racing team, and it's a machinery switch for Dafabet too as they swap out the Kawasaki's for Hondas in this year's Superbike and Superstock races. Let's keep it local now with one of the earliest team switches in our programme. We caught up with Connor Cummins as he reflects on last year's TT and looks ahead to the 2025 event.
TT 2024 was a lot of hard work. Not adverse to it, but it wasn't working, so we just decided just to halt it and move on.
TT24 saw Connor exit the Paget's team in dramatic fashion as he called time partway through race week and immediately started planning for this year's event.
I was very much focusing on 25, and the opportunity came to ride the FHO Superstock bike, and that basically set me up on a course where I knew I wanted to be on a BMW for 25. I had a lot of good years with the Honda machinery, but maybe that was another reason why it felt like the BMW was the right move for me, because it's totally new. And sometimes things need to change. It's not necessarily because a Honda's bad. It's a brilliant bike. But jumping on a BMW, which is brand new to me, and I was just something clicked. And around October time, I had a discussion with John Burrows, with the Burrows Engineer and RK Racing team. And here we are, 25 and racing for that team.
2025 sees Connor BMW mounted for Superstock and Superbike. The Ramsey Rocket will also pilot the Ducati V2 for his old friend and racing rival at the Burrows Engineering RK Racing team.
we've always had good crack, and I've always respected John. I've known him for years, and he's obviously, since packing in racing himself, he's ran the team, and he's always been there. And you know, teams come and go, but he's always been there, and he's always put out really good, solid bikes. Everything looks smart, professional, and he's built over the last few years. He's had some really good riders on. So that is enough to tell me that he wants to make another step forward. There's zero pressure from John. And he wants me just to go out and enjoy myself. But in my head, I know where I want to be, and I know what I've got to do in order to get there. Whereas John's very much will provide you everything you need to go and hopefully do your job, and there's no pressure. So it works for me, it's brilliant.
After a decade of riding Hondas, the 6th fastest rider in TT history, we're looking to get his new steed set up and ready to tackle the Isle of Man TT mountain course come practice week. It's a brand new challenge for the Maxman, and he'll be aiming to build. So what are his targets this year? Have the goals changed for TT 2025?
It's always the same. It's always the same. I want to win. That's the only reason I'm doing racing bikes, is to win TT. So I'm pushing on, and I've never let that one slip. That's always been the goal, and I'll keep trying.
Also leaving the Paget's team this year is 16-time TT winner Ian Hutchinson. Hutchie signed a deal for Michael Laverty's MLav Racing, and he'll be piloting the BMW M1000RR for Superbike and Superstock. The Bingley Bullet will also line up with MLav on the Yamaha R6 for this year's Supersport TTs, and recent 130 Club member Mike Brown was set to join him at MLav on the big bikes, but a last-minute change sees him take Jamie Coward's seat at KTS Racing. KTS have also switched out the Honda for 2025 and had originally supplied Jamie with a BMW for this year's Superstock, Superbike and Senior TT races. This all changed when Jamie suffered a crash in the Super Twin races at the Northwest 200. Other non-starters include PHR's Pierre-Yves Bihan and Batham's Racing's Craig Neve after injuries sustained at the same event. Now then, time to turn this Honda versus BMW battle on its head. With a 2nd place in last year's Senior TT race and only the 5th rider in TT history to go sub-17, we caught up with Josh Brooks as he reflects on a successful 2024 event and tells us how it feels to now be considered as one of the Fast 5 at the Isle of Man TT.
Yeah, it feels really good. I think, in fact, like a lot of people reference the podium position in the senior, and as happy as I am with that, I'm actually more focused for myself and proud of what I was able to do lap time wise, and the natural progression that I've sort of taken in a short period of time, and to reach a 134 mile an hour lap. I feel like quite proud of that, and that sort of puts me into the top 5 of all for fastest all time. So that's, yeah, it's pretty cool achievement.
Josh joined the FHO squad in 2023 and enjoyed ups and downs during his British Superbike Championship assault. Even with his successful comeback to the Isle of Man TT, it wasn't enough for the 2-time BSB champ, who decided it was time for a change of scenery.
It wasn't like really heavily decided at any point. It was sort of like a progression of circumstances. You know, I wasn't pleased with a lot of situations that had occurred during the 2 years that I rode there. So I felt like I'm not in a position to sort of dictate how I think the team should be run, but I'm in a position to put myself somewhere else where I think it would be better, you know. So I feel like that's the correct method of change, and that's sort of where my head was at with the reasons for wanting to make changes.
Josh made the announcement back in December that he had signed a deal with former Rhodes team Dow Racing for the 2025 BSB Championship. The team had also announced that they wouldn't be competing on the roads in 2025, so in stepped Jackson Racing to sign Josh for their International Roads campaign.
For me, I wanted to try and minimise frustrations, and I think by staying on one brand across all the disciplines just made the job a lot easier. And also from previous years, I've ridden you know, a super twin in one team and a super sport for someone else, and then a super bike and stock for another team. And it's just kind of like you're trying to spread your time evenly and fairly, and you can't do that. It's not an achievable distribution. So to have super sport, super stock, super bike all under the one awning with the one team was the target that I wanted to achieve for this year, to try and, you know, smoothen out my requirements and needs for the TT period. And in riding with Jackson's meant that we were riding Honda super sport, super stock, super bike, and then that sort of tied in well with my British Superbike Honda connection. And it's, you know, there were already connections between Jackson's and Dow Racing anyway without me getting involved. So it just all seemed to make the most sense.
Paul Jordan sticks with the team for his second year in a row, and with Josh previously riding for Andy and Alan Jackson at TT 2017, he seems more than comfortable with his decision to jump on the Hondas for this year's Isle of Man TT races.
Yeah, working with Andy and Alan before, like back in 17, I rode the Supersport bike, and you know, that's part of the reason for why I'm here again now. You know, it was a good experience that I had then, and that gives me confidence that we're going to only build more strength moving forward. And for that same reason, with, you know, Paul riding for the team and he's, you know, staying with the team, it's because there's good character and feeling with the bike and the team and how they go about their racing. So there's a lot of sort of positive energy around it.
Starting in his 7th year at the TT and only his 3rd year in succession, Brooksy is already building with his new Honda adventure. He's set his targets high for his short circuit campaign, but we're only here for his mountain course goals and where he wants to be come race week on the Isle of Man.
The target's always shifting. As I said, I'm pleased with how last year went, but I'm also very realistic that Pete crashed out and Michael had a mechanical. Dean wasn't riding at Dean's 100% best, you know, so there's a lot of factors you have to consider when you're trying to evaluate, you know, where you fit into that pecking order, so to speak. But, you know, I've got confidence in my pedigree. I just know that, you know, and I've always sort of said this, I just need more time. You know, having years away, which wasn't my choice, has always, you know, diminished my chances of success. But I think having, you know, a 3rd year in succession, which will be the first time in my TT career that I've been 3 years in a row. So that will definitely have a big influence on my potential. But again, it's really difficult to put a fixed target on it. But, you know, I want to see myself able to mix in that top 3, you know, every time out.
From one of the Fast 5 to another now as we catch up with the fastest man around the Isle of Man TT, lap record holder Peter Hickman. 2024 would see Hickey match Mike Hailwood's record of 14 TT wins and add another string of podiums to his Isle of Man TT CV. We caught up with him to reflect on what would turn out to be quite the turbulent event for the Englishman.
TT 2024, not quite my finest TT I've had so far. Yeah, wasn't what we wanted, wasn't what should have happened. I'm disappointed in it, but I think it's also good sometimes to have a little low because it makes you appreciate the highs.
The crash in last year's senior race ended Hickey's TT24 campaign on a real low. Hickman came away injury-free and was all set to continue with the FHO team until a shock announcement not far from the start of the new British Superbike season.
What happened with FHO? Nothing major, to be quite honest. It's more of, not a difference of opinion, but sometimes a change is needed. And I felt definitely for myself anyway, it's probably run its course. I've been with FHO for 4 years. We've had ups and downs, mainly ups, to be quite honest. It's been a fantastic 4 years overall. I've got a lot to thank Faye for, which I have done already many times. But sometimes things need to change, and last year didn't go the way that it should have gone. It was not just TT, but my whole season really didn't work the way it should have worked. Not through anybody's fault, but sometimes things need to change, and I felt like for myself, and there was some other people in the team that felt the same way, that to move forwards, we needed to do something different. So we did something different.
Davey Todd was also set to join the FHO team after splitting from the Taz Racing Milwaukee squad not long after TT 2024. He later signed with FHO Racing and was all set to campaign BSB and the roads for 2025 until the deal turned into something else.
Yeah, so the deal, I guess, started off as one thing and changed into something else with the situation last year being that I signed for FHO, and then obviously ended up changing when the opportunity arose for me and Pete to do something ourselves and run our own team, and we ended up founding 810 Racing and starting to work with BMW and a lot of cool other brands, and getting to do something I guess that's not really been done before at this kind of level. So yeah, it's a really exciting opportunity, so one that we both wanted to take, and knew it was going to take a lot of work and not going to be easy, but at the same time, if it pays off, I think it'd be even more rewarding.
It's been quite a dramatic entrance into it, if you like. It happened quite late, although discussions have been going on for a long time, over a period of months, in fact. And the actual crunch point was in February of 2025, which is extremely late to be starting a new team, and not just a new team, but a British Superbike team that also does the Northwest 200, that also does the Isle of Man TT, with not just Superbikes, but super stock bikes as well, and for 2 riders. It's a tall ask. It's a tall order, it's a big ask. But to be honest, the team has really pulled together. You can really see the strength of the team, and the bike that sat behind me has happened in 8 weeks, which is pretty impressive from zero to what sat behind me. It's a 2025 BMW M1000RR. It's the first one in the country that's on full BSB spec and Motec, which is also for TT as well. And the team's managed to do that inside of 8 weeks, which is pretty impressive. So I think that shows the dedication of the people that we have behind me and Davey, and it bodes well for the future.
With BSB fast approaching and the Northwest and TT not far away either, the newly formed 810 Racing team got to work and were under no illusions that they were behind schedule just a touch.
We've got 2 BSB rounds and the Northwest before we come here to the Isle of Man TT, so we'll have plenty of mileage under our belts before we come here. And bearing in mind the Isle of Man TT is the biggest event of the year, so for us this is a big aim.
We're in full preparation mode. The whole team are in full prep mode right now, preparing still the last few remaining pieces of the puzzle to make sure we're on track and in the best position possible. Hopefully by the time we get to the TT, we're going to be in a better, well, we'll certainly be in a better position than we are now, but you know, in a lot more comfortable position by then.
Testing went well and the demanding schedule was met by the team. They had an extremely successful Northwest 200, which we'll get to in a moment. In the meantime, let's hear their targets for TT25 and what the plan is if you get beaten by your new business partner.
The target's always the same. The target's to win all 8 races I'm entering, which is a big ask, but it's always going to be the target. You know, I'm not here to finish second. I'm here because I want to win.
The ideal situation for us is that we're 1-2, and we're going to strive to be 1-2 in everything that we do. So obviously you always want to win and you always want to beat your teammate, but if I'm not winning, then I definitely want Pete to be if it's not me.
If I finish second to Davey, I'm going to let his tyres down, I think. We'll have very stern words afterwards.
Davey will rejoin Clive Padgett's team for this year's Supersport and Super Twin TT races, while Hickey sticks with the PHR Trooper Triumph and the Swan branded Yamaha for his Twin and Supersport assaults. Right then, I think that's it. Are we missing anyone? Ah yes, just the new king of the mountain to catch up with now. After his most successful year to date at last year's Isle of Man TT races, the GOAT didn't seem too impressed when we caught up with him to reflect on a monumental 2024. Is there still something playing on his mind?
It was all right. Look, last year should have been better. You know, at the end of the day, it was a frustrating year last year. As much as, you know, obviously the outcome was obviously we become the most successful TT rider of all time at some point in my career. That's what I've always set out to do, and achieving that was obviously what I had set out to do, and that was great. But it was disappointing on the other hand, with obviously the first Superbike race, which I was leading by a shocking amount of time. I was up for the second one, but anyway, let's just have to take it in the chin and come back and see what we can do.
Dunlop looked to be running away with the Superbike TT until a problem in the pit stop put halt to another win. And after disappointment in the senior TT, it was heavily rumoured that Dunlop would be switching machinery for 2025.
It's like everything. It was quite hard to get hold of stuff for my bike, and it was just getting hard work, and just didn't all click into place. And then just thought, you know what, sometimes have to change her up a wee bit.
After 2 successful years on the Hawk Racing Honda, Dunlop set about changing her up a wee bit on pretty much all of his machinery for this year's Isle of Man TT races. And if there was one question on everyone's lips, it was what would he actually turn up with?
I would like to say, just even otherwise, I would like to say one thing, but you know, I'm like, I could turn up with something completely different, but nothing will be changing in the Hawk situation. Hawk will still be involved with me, which is good. Stephen Stewart's been with me a long time. At the minute, obviously our big thing is obviously we've moved to a BMW Stalker, which I've been using from the start of the year basically to now. And obviously I've got a V2, a Ducati V2, which is obviously another difference to what I had last year. So again, it's something completely different to what I've been used to.
Dunlop was first seen on his new V2 Ducati at the Daytona 200 in March, but didn't start testing on the BMW until he was seen at Alton Park and the Cookstown 100 at the end of April.
Problem is the testing we've literally just been doing it ourselves, so I need to really dive down and get the testing done and get electronics men there and chassis men there so we can go through all the bits and pieces. But at the minute we've been having a bit of a run, just sort of going with what I sort of know, but we're just trying to work out what this bike is like, or what it needs to be like, or what it likes, what it doesn't like. The biggest problem with it is it's a complete different chassis to what I'm used to, and it's electronically demanding from what I'm used to, so we need to get into the last piece of it now, and that hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll do that.
The past couple of weeks have gone pretty well for Dunlop. He turned up at an eventful Northwest 200 with his Sean Muir World Superbike prepared FHO sponsored BMW. This thing is trick. It's about as close as you'll get to riding Toprak's bike without actually riding Toprak's bike. Dunlop would take a win on his MD Racing prepared BMW in the first Superstock race, and then another when he piloted the new Milwaukee V2 Ducati to victory in the first Supersport encounter of the week. Davey Todd took the spoils in the opening Superbike race at the Northwest and gave 810 Racing their first ever international road race win. And it was gloves off in the second Superbike race of the meeting after a controversial penalty was rumoured for Dunlop for not putting his foot down when overrunning a chicane. The GOAT ran on again at Metropole before Dunlop brought the fight back to the 810 team and crossed the line in first to take a hat-trick of wins at the 2025 event. Hickman and Todd clearly weren't happy about the decision, and Hickman would later boycott the Superbike podium. 810 Racing would go on to win Team of the Meeting, as Davey Todd made it 3-all, with another 2 wins on the Superstock and Superbike machines. Honda's Dean Harrison looked strong in all classes, as he recorded podiums in 5 out of the 6 races he entered. But it was all eyes on MLAV's Ian Hutchinson, as he made an emotional return to the international podium in the first of the Superstock encounters. Josh Brooks made a steady start at the event, but quickly got up to speed on the Jackson Racing Hondas, as he recorded a 5th place finish in the final Superbike race of the meeting. And teammate Paul Jordan would claim his maiden international road race win for the team in the final Super Twin race on the Aprilia 660. As one event comes to a close, another one opens, and this is the big one. It's set to be another record-breaking year, and with tensions already running high ahead of this year's Isle of Man TT races, there's no doubt that we're all going to be in for a treat when the roads close for the first practice in just over 2 days' time.